is a recording of the Unit 9 notes from the Master ASL textbook being read aloud. ASL up close, using have. The sign to have can be used for possession, as in I have a sister, as well as to show that something exists. Is there a bathroom? In English, you say is there, and in ASL, you sign have. Use the question maker NMS when signing have to ask a question. The picture in the bottom right corner shows the ASL sign for have. NMS alert. Mouth the word cha while signing big or mansion to emphasize an object's size. Accent steps. Many signs for rooms around the house reflect the activity generally associated with that one room. One cooks in the kitchen, sleeps in the bedroom, and eats in the dining room. In addition to concepts like these, several place signs use classifiers. Can you identify at least 2 signs that use classifiers? What do they show? ASL up close, spatial visualization, virtual reality in ASL. Spatial organization is the ability to describe spatial relationships both receptively and expressively. Spatial visualization describes the surroundings of a house or other structure, describes where an object is located in relationship to other objects, and creates strong 3-dimensional images. These skills are essential to sign complex thoughts and descriptions, and to understand ASL literature, and to give and follow directions. The illustration of a house. The goal of spatial visualization is to provide enough detail for someone to create a mental image of what the signer sees, as if going on a virtual reality tour. The key is to remember that your descriptions reflect your own perspective, as if you were walking through the structure. All spatial descriptions start with the big picture or overall concept, house, 2-story. Then select a specific starting point, such as the front door, and describe what your eyes see as you move around, across or through a room. Stairs on left, couch in front of me, door to kitchen on right. Convey distance by using the sign over there with non-manual signals and eye gaze. Describe what you see in your mind's eye. Some tips. You are the reference point. Start general and add secondary details. Use eye gaze. Use non-manual signals. If you're watching something being described, look at things from the signer's perspective, not your own. These are 3 pictures of non-manual signals for proximity, showing far, lower, in front of me, and right there or very close. Eyes on ASL number 16. Visualize descriptions from the signer's perspective. The signer's right does not become your left or vice versa. Visualize yourself in the signer's position for the correct perspective. Places around town. As you learn vocabulary for locations around your community, pay attention to those signs that can be paired with the agent marker. These secondary meanings are printed in blue. For example, adding the agent marker to jail creates the sign prisoner. I want to know, why isn't there a sign for station? Remember that English and American Sign Language don't correspond word for sign. In English, station refers to a location where a service or operation is performed. For several ASL signs, this meaning is already included in the sign. For example, people fill autos with gas at a gas station. Now, make the sign gas station. What concept do you think it shows? Adding a separate sign for station would be redundant. NMS alert. Each time you sign post office, add this NMS. Use your lips to mouth po. Focus, the deaf and hearing worlds. Society regards the deaf as unfortunate. Is this general opinion not largely due to self-regard, which makes us pity them the more for being unable to understand what we are saying? Nicholas Sebastian Rocher de Chamfort. Do you recall your first encounter with a deaf person or sign language? Did you watch deaf individuals sign into each other? Were you offered a card with the ASL alphabet on it by a deaf peddler? Did you have a deaf neighbor or relative? For many people today, initial exposure to the deaf community in ASL comes from seeing deaf characters and sign language on television, the movies, or the theater. From television commercials to comedies, deaf actors in particular continue to expose the American public to the unique culture and language of the deaf world. From Marlee Matlin appearing on Seinfeld to the 2003 Broadway hit musical Big River, the deaf world is no longer hidden from the hearing public. The interaction between the deaf and hearing worlds was not always the case. For many centuries, deafness was considered a curse or divine punishment, and deaf individuals were often institutionalized or kept hidden from non-deaf family members and the public. Even in modern times, sign language has been mocked and deafness pitied as an overwhelming communication barrier. Deaf West Theater Incorporated was founded in 1991 to enrich the cultural lives of the 1.2 million deaf and hard of hearing individuals who live in the Los Angeles area and to expose the hearing world to deaf theater. It provides exposure and access to professional theater for deaf artists and audiences. All productions are presented in American Sign Language with simultaneous interpretation in English, providing an enhanced theatrical experience for deaf and hearing audiences. As the hearing and deaf worlds come closer together in mutually beneficial ways, such as the arts, theater, and film, the deaf community has gained much exposure, understanding, and appreciation by the hearing world. One of the most important aspects of this appreciation and acceptance is the visibility of American Sign Language. Not so long ago, many deaf people avoided signing in public because doing so drew stares, unflattering imitations, and condescension. Hearing people, whether well-meaning or not, expected and demanded deaf individuals fit into the larger hearing world, and thus differences were not embraced. This Bayer commercial is one of the first television commercials to feature a deaf person using sign language. This breakthrough opened the doors for deaf people to appear in more commercials for popular products. A deaf time traveler from the past would be shocked to see how visible American Sign Language and deaf people are in today's world. Much of this visibility comes from deaf actors using sign language on television and in the movies, a breakthrough that first occurred in 1968. Prior to that time, deaf characters were portrayed by hearing actors with little thought of opening the door to deaf actors themselves. Audrey Norton was the first deaf actor to appear on television, and almost overnight other deaf actors began appearing in numerous roles in television, commercials, movies, and theater productions. Now, American Sign Language is less of a novelty and simply a language used by millions of deaf Americans, proudly visible in every part of the country. Both the deaf and hearing worlds have realized each has much to learn from the other in language, culture, and respect for differences, and now both are able to freely exchange ideas and communicate on a level playing field. The deaf time traveler from the past would be astounded to realize that hearing people who watch deaf people sign are more likely to be ASL students than people making fun of the language. Survivor, a popular reality television show, featured Christy Smith, a deaf graduate of Gallaudet University. Christy showed that she could interact with hearing people and compete on equal footing. She was extremely popular with viewers. The visibility of American Sign Language on television shows, commercials, movies, and the theater has evolved over the years due to the determination of deaf actors proving they are as equally talented as their hearing counterparts. In the words of the first deaf president of Gallaudet University, Dr. I. King Jordan, deaf people can do anything but hear. Using classifier claw with spatialization. Convey distance between two places using classifier claw 5. This classifier is a spatial placeholder for one or more places. Concepts like nearby, not too far, next to, across from, and more can be shown by varying the space between two hands forming the CL claw hand shape. CL claw is often used to describe the location of buildings or other structures in relation to each other. In the example below, notice how space is used with the classifier claw 5 to show distance between bank and salon, and then the empty space is identified as clinic. Expression corner, mini-mass. Use mini-mass to describe a bird's eye view of many buildings or crowds of people. Deaf culture note, collective values. The dominant cultural value in the United States and Canada is called individualism. Individualism is a social pattern or expectation that the individual is loosely connected to his or her community. If personal goals conflict with group beliefs, individualists prioritize their personal preferences. The dominant cultural value among the deaf is called collectivism. Collectivists consider themselves interdependent and closely linked together, so a high value is placed on group harmony, solidarity, and cooperation. When an individual behaves in a way that conflicts with deaf culture's group expectations or norms, then the individual may be seen as yielding to the more dominant values of hearing society. Behaviors considered rude in collectivist societies include the following: bragging about one's wealth or accomplishments, acting in a manner that causes the larger society to view the smaller group negatively, and avoiding social activities with other members of the community. Because the deaf world is so small, differences in income, education, employment, and other status symbols are de-emphasized, traits that conflict with the larger hearing society's values. Similar to the experience of other minority groups, the deaf community encounters criticism of its cultural values by hearing people who insist the deaf must, quote, live in a hearing world, end quote. Signing about money. ASL money signs distinguish between amounts involving cents only, dollars only, or mixed sums. Each type of amount is signed differently. In this section, you will learn to use the money spot, the dollar twist, and how to combine dollars and cents. Did you know? The deaf world has its own telephone book, featuring deaf-owned businesses, ads for deafness-related agencies and organizations, TTY access for emergency police and fire services, and telephone/video phone numbers of thousands of deaf people all over the world. Contact information is always close at hand. Called the Blue Book for its distinctive blue color, TTI has long been an appreciated part of deaf culture. The Blue Book provides access to deaf products and services, strengthening relationships in the close-knit deaf community. Whether you need a video phone number, a pager address, or a local deaf repairman, the Blue Book is the deaf world's directory assistance. To learn more about TDI, visit www.tdi/online.org. ASL Up Close Money Signs. There are 4 forms money signs may take depending on the concept being signed. Practice signing the example for each form. Only signing about cents. Touch the money spot before making a number sign. You may also touch a number sign directly to the money spot as well. Only signing about dollar amounts up to $9. Twist the wrist, forming a number sign up to 9. This is called the dollar twist. Signing amounts higher than $9. Follow a number with the dollar sign. Signing about mixed amounts of dollars and cents. Use the dollar twist if necessary, but do not touch the money spot for the cents amount. The number following the dollar amount are understood as cents. Eyes on ASL 17. Use the dollar twist for amounts $1 to $9. Larger amounts use the dollar sign. Eyes on ASL 18. Cent signs originate or touch the money spot unless signed with the dollar sign. Accent steps. Use the number signs for penny, nickel, dime, and quarter. Expression corner. Blow air. Use blow air for phrases like I have no money, I have nothing, not a dime, zip, nada, zilch. ASL Up Close. Using classifier bent B. As you learned in Unit 6, classifier bent B describes people in a seated position. This classifier forms many signs related to the concept of taking or riding transportation, to get out of, to get in, or on, to switch. When signing about going from one mode of transportation to another, to switch becomes a transition, similar to the word then in English. Another related concept using classifier bent B is the sign to ride for a while, which suggests a general length of time during which a person is moving in a vehicle. You may use a combination of classifier bent B and classifier 3 to describe transportation, but keep in mind that the focus of classifier bent B is on the person inside the vehicle rather than the vehicle itself, represented by classifier 3. Accent steps. Turning left or right depends on how the turn is made, on foot or in a vehicle. Do not add separate signs for left or right when using classifier 1 or classifier 3. Simply maneuver the handshake to show a left or right turn. Expression corner. Keep going. Rather than extending your arm straight to show a long distance covered by a vehicle, use the sign keep going. The expression conveys continuous travel in a vehicle, similar to phrases like keep driving, to drive for a while, and a long drive.